Okay, let's look at Standard 25 Substandard F. Analyze the 2000 presidential election and its outcome, emphasizing the role of the Electoral College. So our focus here is on the 2000 presidential election, and our elements are presidential election of 2000 and the role of the Electoral College. Social and political interactions is a theme, conflict and compromise. In the election of 2000, these two men here, the Vice President of the United States for Bill Clinton, Al Gore from Tennessee, was a Democrat. And the Governor of Texas, George W. Bush, was a Republican candidate in the 2000 presidential election. So they're running against one another to become president in 2000. When the popular vote come in, Al Gore in the popular vote was the winner, with 50,999,897 votes. And we've talked about this before in the election of 1876. That popular vote does not count, okay, in determining who's going to be the president of the United States. It does in other ways, but George W. Bush, the governor of Texas, received only a little bit less, but this is very close considering the number of voters. This really indicates the political split in the nation as a whole, how close they are in the splitting between Republican ideals and Democratic ideals. Alright. But popular vote, Al Gore wins. But that doesn't determine who the President of the United States is. The Electoral College does. And that's the emphasis here on the Electoral College. In the end, when the elections is over, George Bush wins 271 Electoral College votes and becomes President of the United States. But it was extremely contested for 2 months. Went to the Supreme Court of the United States. We're going to look at that, and that's how we're going to analyze and look deeper into this election and see how George Bush becomes President of the United States in 2000. You need 270 votes to win. This was the closest election and most controversial election in United States history. Alright, so let's look at that. Here's the Electoral College map, and it's the Electoral College that selects who's going to be the President of the United States. In that particular year, Georgia had 13 Electoral College votes. And back in our 1876, the Compromise of 1877 in Unit 4, you might want to go back and look at that video again if you have forgotten what the Electoral College is and how it works. But it's the same number of senators and representatives in Congress added together. So we can tell in 2000 that there were only 11 members in the United States House of Representatives and 2 senators, because we look at the math here. Go back and watch that video and you understand. Alright, so the Electoral College here determined who the president was, and here are the states with the Electoral College votes, and if we added all these up, it would come out to 271. It would come out to this, 271 to 267 Electoral College votes. See, California had 54, Pennsylvania had 23, Florida had 25. So why is this why was this contested? On election day, 3 states had some contested votes, or too close to call Electoral College votes. There was Oregon, the state of Oregon, and then there was New Mexico with 5, and then there was Florida with 25. Now, while these were contested, no candidate had a clear majority. In other words, George W. Bush was actually behind at 246 Electoral College votes to Al Gore's 255. That's on election day with these 3 states contested: Oregon, New Mexico, and Florida. That was the vote split right here. So Al Gore was actually winning. So then Oregon and New Mexico votes come in, and so Oregon's 7 and New Mexico's 5 went to Al Gore, and that left the Electoral College vote at 267 with Al Gore in the lead and George W. Bush with 246. And the only state left being contested was the state of Florida here with 25. So in 2000, the state of Florida was going to determine which one of these candidates was going to be president of the United States. What happened were voting irregularities in the state of Florida, especially in Palm Beach County and also up in Duval County, and I think a few votes were contested in Miami-Dade County, but biggest ones were here in Duval County and Palm Beach. Palm Beach had the biggest complaint in the voting irregularities. So Florida is going to have these two counties being contested, their votes there by these candidates. When it all boils out, Duval County is going to become George Bush. Votes are going to go to George Bush, and Palm Beach are going to go to Al Gore, leaving 267 for Al Gore, with George Bush taking all of the 23 votes and getting 271 and winning the presidency. All right, so immediately Al Gore called George Bush to concede, but these voting irregularities made Al Gore's lawyers retract his concession to George Bush and then sue in court to recount the votes there in Palm Beach County and Duval County because of misleading ballot designs in Palm Beach County. Look how these are lined up. And if you look how they're lined up, the first punch hole here would be George W. Bush's. But if you punched the second one thinking you were voting for Al Gore, you actually voted for the Reform Party, Pat Buchanan, as president. And so this was kind of confusing for lay voters who thought they were voting, may have thought they were voting for Al Gore, but voted instead for someone else. Okay, and so the punching of these holes became an issue because of the way they were aligned. Misleading ballot design. This ballot is misleading, and that was one of the contested features of this election. Also part of it was these indeterminate punch card votes that we call chads. While they were counting them, they were looking at these chads to see how they were punched, trying to figure out how these faulty designs or misleading designs may have caused confusion during the election in Florida, in Palm Beach County and Duval County, but mostly in Palm Beach. This particular ballot was in Palm Beach County, Florida. And so the Supreme Court of the United States, when George Bush sued there, Florida Supreme Court ordered the district court in Leon County, that's Tallahassee, Florida, to recount by hand 9,000 votes in Miami-Dade County, and that every county in Florida began recounting the undervotes. That's ballots that did not indicate a selection for president. That's what the Florida Supreme Court said at the state level. But George W. Bush from Texas contested this in the Supreme Court, and the Bush v. Gore decision in the Supreme Court in December 2000, determined what would happen. And the Supreme Court of the United States, with a split vote as well, five justices saying that the recount in Florida had to stop because it violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, with 4 dissenting votes to 5-4 Bush, saying that you needed to stop the count. It was a violation of the 14th Amendment Equality Clause. And when they did that, the 271 votes gave George Bush the presidency. He became president of the United States. Now, a lot of people were very upset, and they thought George Bush stole this election, especially since his brother, Jeb Bush, was the governor of Florida in 2000 when all this was going on. So a lot of people were crying foul and saying that this was a rigged election and all. But if our importance here is, did we analyze the 2000 presidential election? We did. And its outcome, George Bush won the presidency by a narrow 537 votes. And this is going to emphasize the role of the Electoral College in choosing the president. Okay, so in other words, the president of the United States is not chosen by popular vote. It is a determining factor, but it's really these Electoral College votes that are going to determine who the president of the United States would be. Alright, so if we look at the Electoral College votes for this election, we see that George Bush received 271 of them, and Al Gore received only 267 votes in the Electoral College. Alright, I hope this helps you understand the 2000 election. Ask questions in class if you have any more. Good luck on the quiz test, EOCT.